Well, build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance to spit in his eye. Well, they gave me balls, but I can see between to a dusty yard and a long gone green. They call that freedom, if you know what I mean. And I drown my sorrows, but the whiskey's gone. I'm sober.
Hello everybody, welcome to Shortbangers. I'm Matty. This is episode 30. I'm joined by John tonight. John, how are you doing?
I'm good, I'm good. Just as you were going through your opening monologue there, it occurred to me that you could have, because of the view that we've got of each other, I'm just obviously in my undecorated room. It's been like this since that shark was first spawned off the coast of Greenland 350 million years ago. But it occurred to me that you might have the missus and the kids all sitting watching you like a studio audience.
What tends to happen is I can see through the living room, so I've got the Scotland game on it, so I keep an eye on that. But I'm in the kitchen, and quite often folk will come in and get their dinner or a can of juice at the fridge or whatever it is. Sometimes they'll signal to me as if they want my attention as well, and that's quite hard to ignore. I say it's hard to ignore. I tend to ignore it most of the time. That's what dads do, but
it's not hard to ignore. It's just your conscience snips at you a wee bit.
Aye, that's it. That's a good way to describe it. It's it can be quite distracting, but if folk watch us on YouTube or on Recast, and they'll see me looking off to my right every now and again, that tends to be what happens. Somebody coming in and signalling or doing something they shouldn't be doing. Like my daughters will come down and deliberately try to do something that will fucking annoy me, just because I can't do anything about it. It's like my hands are tied. So they'll come down and open a can of beer, and they didn't do that, but that kind of thing. Anyway, what have you been up to?
No much. So when did we talk last? Was it Monday night?
Monday. We had Louis Stevenson on. It's quite a memorable episode, John.
Aye, it's not the person or the episode I can't remember. It's the day.
They
all rolled into one. Tuesday, I had Monday, Tuesday off. Tuesday, I had a wee bit of golf in the morning, and then the afternoon was just the afternoon. I think I went with the dog yesterday, back at work. So that's just fucking same old shit, different day. Same day was at the driving range earlier, hitting a few balls, try to get better at golf, and here we are.
Aye, decent. And how's the golf coming on?
So I played golf Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and on the Saturday I had a fucking tantrum. Just
Excellent.
Nothing, absolutely nothing was going right. But then the next 3 days, everything went better. I think I must have been hitting it. So at the moment, the golf course that I play on up Hall, the clubhouse burned down about 6 weeks ago-ish. So we can't play the full course at the moment because they've got like fences up in the...
Scotland just scored. Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry. Aye, they've got fences up in the clubhouse that kind of impede a couple of the holes. So that's getting demolished shortly. So we've been playing, I think it was 11 holes, and then they've managed to extend it out to 13. And I still managed to shoot something like, it must have been over 100. I got that fucked off. I stopped counting my shots. And then on Sunday, I was better. I think I went 76 over 13 holes. And then Monday, Tuesday, I hit 66. So I was able to draw for that I can't handle the pressure of competing against my dad, my adopted dad, who's younger than me. I'm better playing on my own. Still shy, but better.
Is this the same as pea shyness?
I think so. Aye. Like, obviously, I just can't deal with people watching me. That's why I could never be a swinger or a dogger.
No, I know somebody who was involved in something like that, right? I'll not go into the details, but the same thing happened to them. Right? And it wasn't me, right? I'll make this abundantly clear. It wasn't me. Basically, it ended up in a sort of threesome situation. And,
sort of threesome.
Well, that's what it was.
A threesome.
And he said he couldn't get going. Right, was pretty much the best way to describe it. He said at one point he sort of he had the woman in a bit of a headlock because he wasn't sure what to do, and it's like there's nothing aggressive in it. It just kind of was like, I maybe went for a cuddle or something, and he was like, "This has gone gone a bit wrong." It was the worst experience of his life.
But I don't even know how to ask questions about that. How do you find yourself? I don't know about you. Like I've never been in the position to have a threesome, but I've never also been having sex with someone and being able to perform or otherwise and put them in a headlock.
Nah, I would just it wouldn't be the first thing that crossed my mind, to do.
No.
But I think there's quite a lot of drink taken and everything, like that, amongst other things, probably. But it was, but a surreal situation to find yourself in, though, because there'd be a point where you realise you're like, this has gone terribly wrong. It sounded good in theory, nothing's happened, and now I have somebody in a headlock, and my dignity has gone.
I'm honestly thinking about like wrestling moves and submission moves and thinking, no, this is all gone pear-shaped. Like, let's just move on for a failed threesome.
I think it happened.
Or a failed tag team, whichever it is.
Anyway, right, well, we get some questions done.
Aye, let's get it go.
Right, the first one comes from the Straight Ed podcast, who asks, is life on Mars more or less likely than Brora Rangers beating Heart of Midlothian? Well, I suppose you need to understand whether life on Mars had more than 5 training sessions and a friendly.
Do you know, there was probably a spaceship landed on Mars more recently than Brora had a training session.
Or a game, definitely.
Or a game. I couldn't honestly believe that result. I was looking it up. I can't remember. Wait, what game? Was that Monday night as well?
Tuesday night.
So I don't know what I was doing. Like I was in the middle of something else, but I'm scrolling through Twitter and I'm seeing that Brora are 1-0 up. And then I see the Hearts have equalised. And I'm thinking, oh, well, that'll be a bit of formality now because Brora are Highland Elite team and Hearts are further up Scottish football's divisions. And then I'm seeing a couple of other tweets. I saw one for Kaiser Soze saying, hold together, or some words to that effect. And I'm thinking, no, surely no. So I've flicked on a live score, and of course they're 2-1 up. And I'm thinking, sure, what the fuck? How? Surely no. But they managed to absolutely fuck it. And I was looking up their fixtures and stuff as well. And I think because obviously they're a Highland League outfit, they don't have the sort of bells and whistles websites that a lot of senior clubs have.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not been updated. I think it looks almost like a sort of glamorized WordPress site.
Excellent.
So they still have fixtures listed that they have been unable to fulfill by law because of COVID. And I was looking at their next fixture, and it just got the whole thing just got more strange and more strange. Like they're playing Clacknacuddin next, and honestly, no disrespect for that part of the world, they've got their football and whatnot. But how are Hearts getting beat by a team who are playing Clacknacuddin next?
It's mental. I think the Highland League's effectively been suspended, isn't it? They've last played a competitive game in January. They've only recently been allowed to train together. It's just like it's probably, when you put that context around it, the biggest shock in Scottish football history, or one of the biggest anyway. I mean, folk go on about Berwick Rangers beating Rangers, and Clyde obviously beat Celtic as well. But that's right up there with it. When you look at the difference, I mean, Hearts have got a more expensive squad than Hibs.
Yeah. I think someone else I saw as well, and I think that's what put me on to Brora's fixture list, because someone had said that they last played a competitive game 2 days before Hearts competed for the Scottish Cup final.
Bloody hell.
And if that's true, that's scandalous. And no wonder they had a statement out the day talking about under no circumstances whatsoever should you be coming to Tynecastle to protest. Because of COVID. I think Hibs have had some stinkers. I remember back, God, I'm going back about 20 odd years now, but I'm thinking back to Stirling. Was it Stirling Albion? I can't remember what cup it was, but it was cup competition, possibly in the year we got relegated or the year after, but it was a stinker.
I think you look at every club will have one or two results like that, but I kind of think a Highland League team beating, a professional team, a full-time professional team. I just kind of think any other examples of it. None that spring to mind.
No.
And especially a Highland League team who have never played, who haven't played for weeks and weeks and weeks, who's in the middle of a suspended season.
A word of caution, though, because I find that any time a Hibs fan talks about Hearts' misfortunes in any sort of capacity whatsoever, one of them out there will be stirring and ready to come out with but.
Fuck them. We've never had a Brora Rangers. Like,
no.
You can go, like, who are the worst ones? Losing to them, losing to Malmo. Like, Malmo were a decent team when they scudded us. Do you know what I mean? Like, we got a bit of a hiding for them, but they were a decent team. It wasn't like they were a bunch of amateurs. I mean, Hearts,
they weren't
the Maltese team, the other season. Can you go back a couple of years when they were in? When was that? I can't remember if that was Nielsen or Levine or Catherine who was in charge of them, but that's how recent it was. It was one of them, and they got beat. And you thought, oh, fucking hell, that's a shocker. I mean, that was worse than Malmo, I thought. And then that's not as bad as Brora. Like, Brora caps that as well.
I don't know what, like, Malmo, we were playing them in Europe. It's, I know that there's obviously a few exceptions in there through different leagues and qualifying rounds and coefficients and whatnot, but Malmo weren't the Swedish equivalent of the Highland League that they were playing it.
No. So anyway, life on Mars. I'd say more likely to find life on Mars than for Brora to beat Hearts, which is how big of a shock it was.
Taking into account everything that you need to do to get to find life on Mars in the first place.
Aye. Right, friend of the podcast, Ewan Wilson from off of Down the Slope, said, how would you feel if you were a big enough club to play in round 2 of the Scottish Cup and lost to non-league, non-fit Brora Rangers? How would you feel, John? Well, describe the feeling.
I don't know. See, as a professional footballer, how do you go into that fixture with? Let's stay away from the money that you're paid for playing at the level that you're playing at, and just think about the ability that you have in comparison to players that are playing in divisions below you. Like, I mean, like, one division below you, never mind the Highland League. Like, you should be better than them collectively. Like, individually and collectively as a unit, you should be better than them.
Yeah.
I don't know how you move on for that.
I don't know.
Like, unless it is just a case of, like, you go out in the next game and you win the next game, because it looks like Hearts are going to get promoted because they're 16 points ahead or something.
16 points clear.
But the whole thing about them is, like they hate Nielsen. Like, a lot of the fans, like, you'll have seen the reaction since then, they absolutely detest Nielsen. And they're not a fan of Budge either.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how have they managed to lurch from the crisis that they were in to another one?
It's fucking incredible. Do you know what's good about it, John, right, is it's like the penny still hasn't dropped a lot of them, right? Now, fair enough, right? You take it into consideration, they beat us in the cup semi, and I'll maintain they were fucking lucky to do so, right? We weren't good like that game, but we were, in my opinion, we were the better team. We should have had a penalty before full time, didn't get it. Well, then obviously Nisbet misses the penalty, and the rest is history, right? But Hearts, like, in the Championship, I think there's one team there that they've not taken full points from, or have taken full points from out of the games. So, or they haven't dropped points to. So, in the league, they've dropped points to every team apart from one, right?
All right.
So you've got that context around it. So although they're top of the league, they are not blowing teams away, right? They go out the cup in the Scottish Cup in the second round to a Highland League, Brora Rangers, who have to play their game since fucking January. And then Nielsen's on the radio saying, we want to be a top 4 club. And no top 4 championship. And they're going about it like they've got this status in their head where they should be. And you're going, listen, he's got relegated because he's were fucking gash, right? It was fair enough the season ended early, but you were terrible, right? You were getting beat off at everybody, apart from the obvious, right? You go into the Championship, you're not blowing everybody away there. And Brora Rangers pap you out the cup after Alloa have papped you out the League Cup. Top 4.
I want to acknowledge your enunciation on second round of the Scottish Cup.
Not even the big boy round. Second round. I would think they're feeling shame and guilt and probably scrubbing themselves down in the shower. That's how I think they would be feeling after losing.
They are really fortunate that crowds aren't allowed in right now. Could you imagine the stick that they would get?
Do you mind when we beat them in the the Martin Boyle one, and there's a video clip for like their main stand where the players are come off the tunnel and it's, "Don't you dare look up! Don't you dare!" That's what it would have been like. Fucking fannies. Aldo said, "Did you rip the utter pish out of your Jambo associates last night, or did you console them?" Well, I'll be honest with you, John, because we've been on the receiving end of it. I texted a few and said I was going to show solidarity with my brothers and sisters. To be fair, I tend not to be somebody who goes directly to my pals or that. I don't like it when Hibs get beat with things like that. I see folk were messaging me. I'm like, I'm a big bairn with it. I just get fucked off. So I didn't do it to other folk. I'll go on Twitter and do like a general, there's a piss take out there to anybody that wants to see it. If you didn't follow us, you'll never see it. But I'm just not the sort of person that would seek out one of my mates and say, kid, you know.
I think that's a really, I want to say that's a sign of a really good, strong friendship, is when you've got a mate on the opposite side of the divide, whichever divide it happens to be, or whichever club it happens to be. Like, you'll maybe have like a non personal pop. So like I've retweeted a few things that I found amusing this week in relation to Hearts getting beat, but I've never gone and looked for my Jambo acquaintances to go, haha, you're fucking shit. Because I wouldn't like it the other way around, because I'm like you, I'm a big bairn. I'd probably delete their number, block them off Facebook, Twitter, you name it. Fuck you. So I just leave it.
I did that after 2012. I blocked a few folk in 2012. There was folk, right? I sort of fucking, why I got annoyed with it is because I didn't date to folk, right? Which is the first thing. But yes, 2-2. So Scotland went behind, but McGinn's just scored. Super John. There was folk who were like old time friends or whatever that never speak to me, were messaging me to go about the cup, and you're like, where the fuck have you been? Like, if you're going to do that, at least do it all the time. Be consistent. Come when you're getting beat, come and find me then, and ask me to take the piss at you, right? Or that kind of thing. In fact, there was a guy, one of Josh's pals' dads, turned up at our door that day. Fucking Hearts fan, chapped the door, boom, boom, after the game. I'm like, why the fuck would you do that? Why would you do that? Overhead kick for again as well. Bloody hell.
Fuck yeah.
Zatelli style. Oof. So we're getting a bit of commentary on the football as we're going along. So I get the point, and I think Aldo, like I see some of his tweets, I think he's got that relationship with his mates. So it's fine. Like if that's what if it's both ways, fine. But it's no for me. Like I say, I'm a big bairn, but I get the huff, especially if I'm already in a bad mood about the Hibs. I don't need somebody tweeting me to say, fuck you. If it's out there, I'll ignore it. If somebody messages me directly, just think, fuck that. That's a different thing. I'm not into that at all.
I think the thing that me and my Jambo mates have got as well is it's almost like it's a wee bit mutual respect. It's kind of like you'll maybe get the WhatsApp message with the monkey with his hands over his face.
Aye.
And we're usually, like, any time we ever have something like that, we're usually pretty self-deprecating about the piss take.
Yep.
So you usually take the piss out yourself first because it's easier than hearing it off of someone else.
Aye.
Just go, aye, fuck it, that was shite. What are you going to do?
And fair play, each to their own, mate, but it's no for me. I'm too much a big bear, mate. Too much a big bear to take it all to heart. Which is funny because I didn't in any other walk of life. I'm no precious, but if someone takes a piss at me, I'll join in normally because it's quite funny, but different when it's the Hibs. Anyway, right. Now, Alex, now I'm probably going to get this wrong because it's a bit of a tongue twister. Try and follow it, John. How much Brora would you get into if you found out your Brora was found guilty of Brora-ing sheep, knowing fine well that sheep Brora-ing had been outlawed and you didn't think it was worth Brora-ing about? And would it make Alan McGregor angry, or would you not be bothered? So
I think you would be in a lot. I think you'd be in a lot of Brora.
I think the police would be coming to find you. There was I'm sure there was a story in the paper the other day about a guy who was Brora than dogs. That's a weird thing, eh?
Wait, when you say brothering, or you mean brothering, or do you mean brothering?
Yeah.
For people who are listening to this podcast, Matty just made the wee circle gesture and the finger through the circle. Did you ever have that rumour when you were at school that there was someone at your school that was shagging dogs?
No, but I would imagine that's a fairly popular rumour to have around schools. Like that's
Oh,
definitely one that kids would start, wouldn't it?
Aye.
I kind of think maybe so. Mates Colin and Warren listen to the podcast, and Colin, whenever I've misremembered something or vaguely remembered it, he's really good with the details. Like he fucking memory of an elephant, superb. But will come in. So the World Cup. Remember, I couldn't remember the World Cup for the teacher. That was Italy '90. Came in with the game as well. Forgotten it already. But that's the sort of what will happen. I'll get a text with the answer to the thing that I couldn't remember. So
it was a Saturday. The wind was blowing for the east.
If there was, I'm sure we started a rumour that somebody had dysentery once when they were off sick.
Yeah, you had classy insults when you were at school.
But I can't take the credit. That might have actually been Colin that started that one. I can't remember who it was. But Doug shagging, no, I can't remember anybody getting labelled for that at school.
So there are countries in the world that I can understand why you've got dysentery would be an insult or a cracking rumour to start. But where did you shag dogs come from, and is it unique to Scotland?
I think it can't be unique, no, because that sort of things, it happens, doesn't it? Like, obviously wrongly that it happens, but it goes on. Christ knows why, But
speaking of which, never, ever, ever, ever Google Mr. Hands.
Right, I won't. I won't. We'll move on. 150k on Hamlin Hill. Actually, when I read this question out, I've just seen it. It's not. I think where this is going to lead us, John. But if Brora were said to be happier than a dog with two cocks, where would the second cock be placed? Having two bangers in the one place would be pointless, surely. So, if you're a dog, John, and you've got two bobbies, where are you wanting the second one? Assuming the first one stays where it is.
Read the question out to me again, just so I can.
If Brora are said to be happier than a duck with two cocks, I'm not sure why they would be happy. Did something happen with them? Oh, aye. Right. Where would the second cock be placed? Having two bangers in the one place would be pointless, surely.
I think if Brora were said to be happier than a dog with two cocks, where would the second cock be placed?
Aye, on the dog. Like.
Oh, right. I thought you meant like.
Way. No. So, like, you never heard the expression, like, happier than a dog with two cocks. Obviously, boy dogs are happy because they can get to their bits. So you would think it would have to be sort of somewhere they could reach to clean.
Well, funnily enough, I was talking to the wife about this yesterday. I said to her, do you know how I know that dogs don't have sex for pleasure? Because your dog... anyone that's got a male dog, their dog in fact, female dogs as well, they have the ability to lick their privates.
Yeah.
But they don't spend any amount of time there, really. Whereas if they were doing it for pleasure, they would be at it all the time.
Again, like you see some dogs that are not shy, but because there's no joke, is it?
But never at completion, though. Have you ever seen? No, surely no.
No, complete. Because it's no joke, isn't it? Like, is why do dogs lick their balls? Because they can.
Aye.
Like, and so therefore, that kind of a dog with two cocks, you think would be very happy.
Aye. See, I wonder if you and I have got a maybe slightly different interpretation of the question, because I think your interpretation is where exactly on their body is that second cock going to be?
That is where would the second cock be placed. That is specifically the question.
Well, my thoughts were that the cock was firmly placed up Hart's arse after the fucking pumping that they gave them.
That was different to the line of thinking I had, but I'm happy with that answer, John.
Thanks.
Right. Portrush Punk said, is the next Shortbangers going to be the longest ever? When my question is, how funny is it to spunk £10 million on your team when you get put out of the Scottish Cup by a village team? Well done, Brora. So how fun, on a scale of 1 to 15, John, how funny was it?
15.
It is a full 15. There's no question about it. That is a 15 out of 15 hilarious moment. Even more so when you consider the spend. I mean, Hearts have spent a ridiculous amount of money to be as shite as they are. I
know they've spent a lot of money on. I don't know if they spent any money getting Boyce in, but I'm led to believe he's on quite a hefty wage packet per week. I think it's rumoured to be something like $6,000 a week.
Oof.
What was it? Was the question 10 million to assemble the squad?
It's a bit when you spunk 10 million at it. 10 million is a conservative estimate.
Aye.
15. 15.
So that's the thing. Like, we had this question a while back. I think it was when the Yorkshireman was in charge, and we were talking about like who's to blame. Is it Heckenbottom? Is it the recruitment team? Is it who signs the checks? Like who's to blame here? Who's at fault? And I think serious questions have to be asked, but I don't know if this is the problem with the stewardship at Hearts. I feel like they've spent that much money, but who comes under scrutiny for that? Is it Anne Budge? Is it Robbie Neilson? Anne Budge recruited Robbie Neilson. It just seems like an absolute shit show.
Mate, it's amazing. It's a great question, right? Because the obvious answer initially was Levine, right? Because Levine was director of football, brought in Cathro, brought the players in.
Is he still working as the first aider?
Who knows? Who knows whether like Levine's still got a hand in it? I have no idea, but the current season has the hallmarks of a Levine influenced season, doesn't it? But he would have definitely been on the hook for like wasting money on signings and all the rest of it. Then he was the manager and the director of football. So not only, assuming he got paid more for doing both, right? So not only then is he taking more money out of them, but he's definitely responsible for all the shite signings. And then they built this huge squad, spent money on Robbie Neilson, after actually chucking loads of money at Daniel Stendhal, who didn't want to go to them in the first place, but eventually they paid him enough that he thought, all right. Then got Neilson, but by this point, Levine's off the books, isn't he? Like when Neilson came in, Levine buggered off, and they said they wanted to get a director of football in, then they changed their mind about it.
I've just had this image of Craig Levine like in the billows of Tynecastle, like Phantom of the Opera.
Sitting lighting 50 quid notes to wiping his arse for him. The money's going nowhere. Right. Mixu99 said, is last night's result the biggest shock and humiliation in 1 Scottish Cup history, 2 Scottish football history, 3 British football history, and 4 association football across the world at all levels? Can you name a bigger shock than Brora beating Hearts, John? Off the top of your head.
In Scottish football, no. In world football, yes. I was reading about. Have you seen the thing about how in, I want to say Nigeria, Dundee United is an insult.
Yeah, it means idiot. Yeah.
And I was just reading about them, how they went over to Dundee United went over to Nigeria and played like a pre-season tournament or something. Were getting beat by like part-timers and guys that they just rustled up off the streets. Basically, it's because Dundee United just basically weren't interested. I think Jim McLean had only just taken over. I think so. As much as we're ripping the piss out of it, and I think this is where sometimes our Scottish football is lacking. Like England in the FA Cup talk about the magic of the FA Cup and how the minnow, how the Highland League team can go and go and be the giant killer. That is the absolute epitome of giant killing, is the Highland League team taking on the might of the First World War winners and coming out victorious.
Top four hopefuls.
Top four hopefuls, aye. So aye, definitely Scottish football. British football, there's been a couple of shocks in the FA Cup. Who was it? Who haven't in Waterlooville? Who did they beat a couple of years ago?
Oh, Christ, you're asking me. They can. The last, there have been a few big shocks in English football. You're right, the FA Cup does throw up a bad result for somebody, or a great result for somebody, depending on your perspective, every now and again. Yeah.
I think the difference though, and this is a bit where I'm not entirely sure. So in Scotland, I think our league structure, because of the size of the country, is much, much smaller. Whereas down in England, you have, well, it used to be like the conference, but then you've got all your sort of like regional leagues, I think, around about it. So I don't know exactly what's an equivalent Highland League team in England, and then we can judge it, I suppose.
Aye. I'm going to say it is the biggest shock. It's the funniest
I'm trying to
one
be
anyway.
magnanimous.
Aye, nah, fuck them. Liam asks, what freak of nature invented the spork, and do sporks make Alan McGregor angry? Well, second answer is definitely yes. You having the spork, John?
Do you know, I would prefer not to use it if I could. Like, so see if, I think the answer to the question is, the freaky nature is probably the rambler, the hill walker, the outdoorsman, or the sort of lazy outdoorsman, because I think a proper outdoorsman will be able to whittle himself a knife and fork from whatever's lying around, or he'll just use his hands, or her hands.
Or her hands.
If I've ever needed a bit of cutlery when I've been out rambling and hill walking, I'd probably just use, like, I don't know, I've definitely used like a bit of folded up card or something before. I went to school with a boy who it's a wee bit tragic, because his mum died when he was young, and I don't think that his dad was quite equipped to look after him and his sister. So
is it Edward Spork hands?
No, that is, do you know, he could have done well to have been Edward Sporkhands, because he once came to school with a tin of beans for his lunch, but he didn't come with a tin opener. So he genuinely spent the best part of about, I want to say 20 minutes throwing this can of beans against a brick wall to try and burst it open so he could have his lunch.
Why did they just take it to the canteen and just ask one of the teachers or like the kitchen staff for that? Just, would you mind opening this for me, please? I don't have a tin opener.
I don't know. There was another time that he came to school and his lunch was a multi-pack of Mars bars.
Amazing. That's Lunch of Kings, that, by the way. I love a Mars bar. Imagine you'd be a hero at school that day, because you couldn't eat them all on your lunch time. You'd have to dish them out. I think you could eat 4 or 5 bars.
You could probably sell them individually and get yourself a plate of chips or something for your lunch.
Aye, if he'd been industrious. But given he's the sort of kid that would launch a kind of tin of beans against the wall for half an hour to get or not get into them, then he's maybe not as industrious as you might think.
No.
Right, Dave Graham says, what's quicker at turning, Christoph Berra or Evergreen Marine in the Suez Canal?
I think there's a chance that they might turn the Evergreen Marine.
I think so. Definitely. I would say it's definitely. I don't think it's even a competition. Apparently, I think it was £6 billion worth of goods every day is getting held up.
I saw a wee graphic earlier. You know how you've got flight radar for watching all your planes like zipping across the world? So they've got, I just happened to stumble across a tweet earlier. So the Suez Canal was built to prevent people going around Cape Horn, which adds something like 12 days to a journey and however many hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not millions of pounds of fuel bills. And all of these ships are now starting to go around the Cape of Good Horn like it was back in dysentery days.
Aye. You know what will happen? They'll sat and they'll be in traffic, and then somebody in the front will have lost patience and done a U-turn. And somebody further back will have gone, well, where are they going? And then they'll have done the same. And that's what's happened. They've all sort of fucking followed this diversion.
Aye. So if you're interested, vesselfinder.com. That's the one that I saw.
Nice one. Can imagine everybody rushing to Google that now. There was
too busy Googling Mr. Hands.
I'm sure it was I think it was a Chinese owner of the boat had written an apology. Like, That's all right. Don't worry about the 6 billion per day. You sent us a nice wee letter to say sorry.
I think it's mental. Like I think so. I think when the canal was built, it served its purpose, but because like the thing that they're talking about, I think it's longer than the Empire State Building.
Skyscraper size was how they described it.
Aye, and they're calling them like, was it super carriers? I don't know if it was like super cargo carriers or super carriers, but they're bigger, I think, than the canal was intended for.
Yeah.
Aye.
Do you think they'll drop the super part of that now that it's totally fucked it for everybody?
Just like put it back to average or normal.
Aye, like annoying. Right, 150k on Hanlon Hill said, "Is Jobbie Nielsen living on Brora time? Are Hearts fans revolting?" Yes to both.
Yes to both. Aye. I really, honestly, like that's one of the things that I like about the English language is like revolting, because it's got that double entendre to it, and it's I really like that.
I like how the versatile Brora is.
Aye, that's going to be part of Scottish football lexicon for millennia.
You can chuck it in for a whole host of other words. Paul King said, "Will the next round between Brora, Conquerors of Hearts versus Stranraer record the first case of jet lag in domestic football?"
Possibly. It's one of those like weird quirks of football that crop up from time to time. Is that possibly the longest senior round trip in football?
Are Brora senior
in Scotland?
I don't know. Are they?
If they're not, then that makes it worse for Hearts.
I think Brora can afford the plane. I think they're difficult to bust it down. The Hearts, so it was something like a 5 and a bit hour drive back down the road, and Hearts I think had 2 buses and some cars, because obviously you can't, because of COVID, get everybody in one team bus. Can you imagine how shite that journey home must have been?
Oh, fuck. Do you think
it's delightful, isn't it?
Is talking allowed on the bus? If it is, then they shouldn't have been speaking to each other. They should have just been texting each other like, "You're fucking shit. It's all your fault."
Just gazing out a window at the darkness, the bleak darkness, finding comfort in it.
Aye, here, by the way, I watched the goals back. There were 2 good goals.
Aye, first one especially was a peach. The boys kind of looked up, picked his spot.
Hearts' goal was typical Hearts, like long ball into the box, and then bobbling about and
bounce around a bit. That's about as Hearts a goal as it gets, eh?
Aye.
Oscar Ramage said, "What's worse, getting pumped out of the Scottish Cup by Brora Rangers or getting pumped out of Europe by Birkirkara?" Which I think we've mentioned already. Birkirkara with the Maltese team. Brora Rangers is worse. Not by a lot, but it is worse.
I don't know where Birkirkara stand in world football. What cut are they? Maltese?
Better than Hearts, is where they stand. I'm sure they're Maltese. I could look it up. Maltese or Gibraltar or somewhere like that. Like somewhere where, in fairness, a Scottish team. You know when Celtic go beat off your Red Imps in the first leg, and everybody took the piss out of them before Celtic absolutely fucking horsed them. And Hearts thought that was probably what would happen with them, because a similarly shite team, but instead Hearts got horsed. But Brora, I think, and again we go back to the context. Not being able to play games and everything. Guys that have finished their work for the day, had the game at night, and then had to get up for work again in the morning.
No,
amazing. That's definitely worse, or better from our point of view. Like it's significantly more hilarious.
I think the population in Malta is maybe only just. In fact, no, that's shit. Population of Brora is maybe about the football team.
I think it's 1800 and something. So there's no.
Oh, that was another one of those like weird facts that came out, was that you can fit the entire population of Brora inside the Roseburn and still have room left over.
Carter's Corner said, if Brora were match fit, how many would they have taken off Hearts? 15. Lucy Van Pelt said, did Hecky turn down the Blades because he heard there's a job at a very big club coming up, a massive club? Who might have a vacancy soon?
Could you imagine Heckenbottom took charge at Hearts? How poisonous would that be? It actually almost makes me look forward to it. I didn't hate the guy, but I would if he was Hearts manager.
Aye, but that's the same with anybody. If they go to Hearts, like I think the only people who could conceivably go to Hearts and not turn into villains instantly would be folk for the Scottish Cup winning team. Do you know who are pretty much stuck in
come on
at
now.
Hibs. Well, they are, aren't they? Like
Sir David Gray takes the reins at time. Oh, I can't even finish that sentence.
I mean, it wouldn't happen. You think it wouldn't happen, right? But you couldn't. You wouldn't hate him. Like, you couldn't hate David Gray. How could you? Even if he did that, you couldn't be. You just couldn't do it. McGregor, do you know? Again, it's hard to think of a circumstance where McGregor would take over at Hearts, but if he did, you couldn't hate him. So the team that won the Scottish Cup are legends forever. Do you know? And they're a free pass for whatever, in my opinion. It's like folk moaning about Stokes and that. Like, fucking shut up. I don't care how shite Stokes was the second time he came back. Stokes won us the cup. You know, he was immense. And that, for me, free pass for the rest. I would play him in my team at 60. Do you know? He could come in, I'm looking for a game, I'm falling on hard times. No bother, Stokes say, here's a wee contract for you, play the season, we'll play you well. You know, 5 minutes here and there. No bother. That's fine. So, aye, Hecky doing it is a different story though. Hecky doesn't really have that standing with Hibs fans. If he did it, I imagine folk would go fucking tonto about it. Or at least
but
have no qualms about wishing ill on him. So I wish him well. Like, I have no problem with Heckingbottom. Like, I hope he does well wherever he is. Like, he tried hard at Hibs, it just didn't work out for him.
I think if he was to go to Hearts, based on what Lewis was saying the other day about like tactics and preparation and whatnot, if he was to go for the high press against Hibs, all he would have to do is have Marciano, Macy, or Dubrovsky just fucking hit it long, and that's it.
Aye.
That seemed to defeat. that seemed to be the silver bullet for Heckingbottom's high press.
It'd be the wrong way around, wouldn't it? Because normally when you play Hearts, that's their tactics is just fucking shell it. Right, Ian McPhail said, is this karma for tainting the 2012 edition of the trophy? Hearts are due. Right, hold on a wee second. He's worded this right. Is this the karma for tainting the 2012 edition of the trophy that Hearts are due for over 100 years of embarrassment in the Scottish Cup? It's been repeated exits at Easter Road, first as holders, then versus the holders, variously at Celtic, now Brora. What shall we do to them next? So Hearts pretty much held the Scottish Cup over us for long enough, didn't they? You know, when we hadn't won it for a long time, and pretty much their whole existence is based around letting us know how long we hadn't won it for. But since then, especially since we've won it, it's been almost non-stop disaster for them. 2 finals, they've never done anything in.
Have they been in 2 finals since then?
I think the last 2 finals they got to.
Oh, I didn't realise.
Never won them.
Do you think that's just it's that hope, innit? Like, imagine that they were to get to a final every year for the next 114 years and not win. That would be karma. But you need to add a wee bit of variety in there. So things like you're suggesting. So some of the wee records, like I remember, so we got beat by them in 2012, and then the following game at Easter Road, straight out. So I think they hadn't actually held the trophy for a calendar year by that point, which was at that point I think was the shortest sort of conceding of the trophy. Shortest defence. Yeah. Sorry, the trophy. And then some of the other accolades that Ian McPhail mentioned or you mentioned are brilliant. Long may it continue.
Long may it continue. Right. Ryan said, should Hibs TV rebrand as Hibs Telly? And if so, do you think we could use our contacts at the club to make it happen ASAP? Hibs TV is Hibs Telly?
Aye, I like it. I'm a big fan of it. I think Hibs maybe wouldn't go for it because I wonder if it's maybe a wee bit niche.
Aye, but what I would want to see is every you have to be seeing somebody in an overhead kick every episode. Really, that's the.
That should. So if we're going to do it, if we're going to call it Hibs the Telly, when the programme starts, and they might have to put a wee bit more into their production budget to make this happen, is get a wee bit grainy VHS footage from Zatelli's overhead kick against Dundee is the opening credits for every single episode of Hibs Zatelli.
Aye.
The rest of the content I'm not bothered about.
Aye.
Just subs the telly at the start every time.
Alistair Taylor said, "What's your porn star name? Your first name is the name of your first pet. Your surname is the name of the street you were brought up on, i.e. I'm Tammy Crichton. So, name of your first pet and the street you were brought up in."
Buster Pilton.
Ooh, Fonzie Kepscase.
Fonzie what?
Kepscase Road in Whitburn. Fonzie with the cat. That's the first pet that I remember anyway, is Fonzie. Aye. Peter Brown said, Matty a couple of weeks ago referred to making a Switch transaction, which I did. Which outdated things do you still refer to? He still tapes things on the TV. So switching, like, do talk about switching things. So if you use your debit card to pay for it, even though Switch hasn't been a thing for fucking ages.
When did chip and pin replace Switch?
So chip and pin came in on February the 14th. Can't remember which year it was.
Are you taking the piss?
Nah. It would have been early 2000s. But it was, what I remember is they did, I worked for HSBC at the time, and there was like obviously a big campaign about telling customers about it, and it was all done. I probably got this fucking wrong, right? That's when you start going quite confident about the information you're given. I think it's actual factual. Could be complete bollocks, but it was all done around the love theme, and I'm sure it was February the 14th. I think they did it on Valentine's Day. So
wait, this was February 14th, early 2000s that they introduced chip and pin?
Yeah.
Maybe, so what's the difference between chip and pin and contactless then? Or are they essentially the same thing?
No, they're not the same thing. So contactless came later. This is fucking dull for everybody, by the way. Like, who wants to get the history fucking debit cards? So chip and pin, it was because it was the two together. That's why it was like the love relationship, right? So you got your chip, you got your pin, your card's safer than if you just had to sign for it, which is what you did back in those days. You signed when you used Switch. The other thing that changed as well when chip and pin came in and broadband and that came along is when it was Switch, it was something like 1 in 10 transactions got checked. So, like if you went to places that did cashback, so the Weathers, Felix and Firkin on Bread Street took Switch and gave you cashback. So you had if you were skint, you could go in, because it only checked 1 in 10 transactions, you could get your drinks in, get the round, get 50 quid cash back, hope it wasn't one of the 10 transactions that checked if your money was actually in the account or no. If it went through, that was your night. You were sorted. You could do it again later on and hope again that it would be all right, which, funded many a night out like that. But when they did broadband and fast internet, they could check your account at seconds anyway. That changed. Now chip and pin, I think they check virtually every transaction to make sure you've got the funds there to do it. Spoil sports. Spoil sports.
I loved how you tailed off there because it just was really, really boring.
It is boring, but I remember like countless nights out like that. You were like, oh, fuck, I could probably do it. Definitely got enough for a couple of pints, but I'll get cash back if it lets me. And then
I went through a spell. I went through a spell when I was younger where I was staying in town and I basically couldn't afford to live where I was living.
Yep.
Or I could if I didn't have the lifestyle that I did. And the lifestyle that I did was basically going out bevy on Thursday to Sunday, plus going to the football and whatnot. And pretty much without fail, every Friday for however long, I would phone up the bank and extend my overdraft until the point they said, no, we can't do that anymore. I was like, well, fuck, I'm not going out tonight.
Aye, disaster.
Aye, that's that. Free cash dried up.
Aye, bastards. Anyway, what do you still do? So definitely taping things. So do that, like taping something that's on the TV.
I did daft things. Like, I wonder if I maybe skip a generation. I'll refer to the radio as the wireless just for a laugh.
The wireless. The tranny.
The wireless, the tranny, aye.
Kind of caught a tranny now. That gets in all sorts of bother.
Do you think that would get you in bother? Like, because I think the tranny was always the thing that the old boy at the football had.
If you said it to somebody, like, because you care who you're talking, and nobody would bat an eyelid, but if you put it out on fucking Twitter or whatever, there'd be somebody, that scours, the fucking perennially offended, who would be scouring to say it and then jumped in your choice of language. that's what fucking happens these days, isn't it?
What other things could we try and bring back into common usage? I've been making a point recently, throwing in Shree anytime I could. I've got no idea where it comes from.
John Hughes invented Shree.
Is it a Leith thing, or is it an Edinburgh thing, or a Scotland thing, or where did it come from? Because I know that all of my family for the sort of East Coast have said Shree when they're referring to three.
Aye, so it is an East Coast thing. I've never heard it West Coast. I think.
No, definitely didn't hear it through in Livy. But
aye. I don't know. I can't think what else. Doesn't matter, right? Titch Curry said, if your dog done a shite next to another dog's old one, would you pick it up? And if so, where do you stop? How far do you go?
You ever had a dog?
Yeah, not since I was Miro.
Did you ever go out picking up the shite when you had them out for a walk?
Nah. I mean, I think kind of folk did that back then. Do you know, like as a matter of course, like
picked up shite.
Picking up dog shite is I think a relatively recent.
It's a 21st century invention.
Where folk kind of went, by the way, you need to sort this shite out, so start picking up your dog, which is a good thing. Like folk should pick up after the dogs because it's fucking clarity leaving it alone. I think if I had a dog and it shat next to another dog's shit, I would probably pick it up because I would be worried. This is the sort of person I'd be worried that somebody would clock me and go, that was his dog. And then I would be tired with the stigma and no picking up after my dog. So
it is weird.
But what if there was, you know, if the dog had done a wee trail on him, would you feel obliged to pick up a few?
Well, this is the thing. So I'm assuming that Titch has got a dog, and that's why he's asked the question. I've got a wee dog, a wee murderous dog, as we've discussed before. And while he was young, I think my missus' pal, who's got a dog, asked her, have you ever picked up a cold shite? I'm like, no, like all the shite that comes out the dog's arse is body temperature. And what she was referring to, of course, like was being out in the dark and like trying to find your dog shite and picking up another dog's by accident. And it's honestly, it's brutal. I mean, you've got the wee sort of poo bag covering your hand.
Yep.
I had to make sure, because I've got quite big hands, I had to make sure that I got there's a very particular brand of making of the big bags, because the wee puppy poo bags were just no good, because every so often, like the bag just wouldn't go over my hand properly, and I've grabbed like the actual shit.
Fucking hell.
But I know I've picked up the cold jobby. I've picked up other dogs' jobbies out of fear that someone would see me, or there's been someone nearby and has seen me with a poo bag picking up the shit. I thought, well, I better grab that one as well. But like you, like I get really fed up about folk who didn't pick up dog shite. And there's plenty of folk near me that didn't pick up their dog shite. And they must have big bastard dogs, because it's like fucking human shite, unless there's a human out there just squatting and having a jobby. But the real difficulty is going out with, I've seen myself going out with one poo bag and the dog shit twice. And I've seen myself going out with two poo bags and the dog shit 3 times. I'm like, what are you doing to me?
Dogs at the wind up.
Because at that point, you're kind of like, well, what the fuck do I do now? And sometimes, like, I found myself in situations going like, oh shit, I'm really sorry. Like, I forgot a poo bag to another dog walker and said, can you give me a bag? And managed to get one off me. And then other times, it pains me to say, I've had to leave it because I've not got any poo bags left.
Would you go back for it? Mark the spot?
I have done it once. Just once.
Just once. All right. It's one of those things like crossing the road because somebody waves you over, even if you're not wanting to cross the road. Whereas that sort of social pressure to do something, I'm fucking terrible for it. I would be like, oh no, I better pick up the shit. I'm so glad I didn't have a dog at the moment. We had conversations about getting a dog, and it's one of the key things that puts me off is picking up shite. I just think, why would anybody choose to do that? But obviously the rewards of having a dog outweigh. It's like when you have a baby. Babies are just shite and piss machines, and you clean up after them. So I kind of figured it'd be the similar line of thinking.
It's not that bad, to be honest. Like, picking up the shite isn't the worst aspect of having a dog. Probably the worst aspect.
What's worse than that?
It's having to go out in the piss and rain.
Aye.
And
pick up
gale.
shite.
and pick up shite.
Aye, fucking, I'm not selling it to me. Right. Anyway, Kaiser Soze said, when you finally get back into Easter Road, what's the first thing you're going to do? The first thing I'll do is go to the toilet because I have the bladder of a 3-year-old.
Is that so? I was going to ask what your trip to Easter Road routine is, because I think everyone's probably got, broadly speaking, the same routine every other Saturday.
We pick up my dad. So me and Josh will go. I'll drive through, pick up my dad, and then we'll drive down. Depending if it's a big game, we'll park sort of Wrestle Rig End. If it's a weird game, we'll park behind the West Stand. And then we're always dead early. Like I get the fear about being late and not being able to park. It stresses me out. So I think if I get down early, you definitely get a space. And I didn't mind hanging about. I quite like sitting in the stand watching it fill up.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like because we're right at the back of the West Stand, second back row, QQ. And you obviously see right across to the east, and you see that filling up, and there's just, it's a cool thing. Team are out warming up. You see the warm up and that. But generally, once we get up the stairs, I'll go to the toilet because I'll have been needing since I left my mum and dad's when I picked up my dad. It's kind of going a car into the toilet. So it's one of these things just happens in life. So that's what we do. Then we just go up and get our seats and have a blather till the game starts.
So I wonder if anything about that's going to change. So I see a guy every Friday go do some PT, and he's talking about how I think the gym for him closed in December, and he doesn't want people coming back to the same gym, so he's making a couple of wee tweaks, a couple of wee changes, and it made me think about like my routine and going to Easter Road. So my routine for going to Easter Road is pretty much broadly going to be the same, like check and make sure that there's no delays on the Livy North line, going through to town, possibly going into a pub. And then you wander down to the ground, up through turnstile 32, up the stairs. But are you just going to sit in your seat as normal after no being there for a year? I don't think so. I'm kind of hoping that Hibs can do something about remember they had the fan zone behind the East Stand? Or maybe go for they
probably don't want to do that though, because they'll not want to have folk congregating. Do you know, like in...
But if you're at the ground, I'm assuming that
so it's
all
safe to do so.
Lifted,
right,
if we're all
fine.
back to the ground, aye. Like one of the things I'd like to see Hibs do is to get permit off the council to block off the road either side from like Lock End through Albion Road and St Clair, and just have a big food vans, sell drink, just get everyone back to the ground and enjoy it. Because you can't just go back to Easter Road after a year of no being there, toddle up the stairs as you normally would, sit down in your seat and go, right.
Oh, mate, that's what I want. I just want it to be like normal. I love the thought of it just being like it was. Do you know, you just go in. I get what you're saying. It'd be nice to have that kind of, it's a bit of fanfare around it and all the rest of it. But the idea that you just kind of go up and it's as you were. You know, it's the same folk round about you that you've not seen for a fucking year and a bit. Like that, that's it. Do you know,
I'm not being funny, but they might be dead.
This is true. This is true.
Might have some new faces, some new morning bastards around it. Was that?
So I hope I get one. There's new faces going about. Right, Steve McMahon said, is it ever acceptable to give another team a guard of honour, and at which pub should we give Brora Rangers one?
Oh, dear.
What like Brora put on their Twitter account is like Sunshine and Leith, they put the cover of the album and just put on repeat. So Brora are definitely welcome in Leith anytime, eh?
I think it was the boy Martin McLean was saying that he doesn't expect to ever pay for a pint in Leith ever again.
Quite right, not sure.
That's a fair shout.
Mal Bergen said, what's the best thing you've heard someone say at a football match or watching football? Once heard a guy say, fucking big boy boo, when Hibs were getting beat at Easter Road one game.
Honestly, there has definitely been some belters in my time going to Easter Road, but I can never remember any of them. However, there was a game, and it was when the old East Stand was still there. And it was Must have been Tony Mowbray era. So because it was around about the time that me and one of my mates first started going to the football together, and there was a ginger boy in front of us, and he was usually like, you know what you were saying before about like the usual faces, like the group that we sat in amongst. So our seats were J150, 151, and it was always the same face that you saw around about you for like years, like however many years we had the season ticket, we always saw the same faces. I remember someone at the back of me one day, I think Hibs were playing Motherwell. I want to say Motherwell. And someone behind me called one of the Motherwell players a ginger bastard. And the ginger laddie in front of me turned round and said, call him a ginger bastard again. I'm going to come up there and punch your cunt in.
Aye. Nice. Well, we were at East End Park for I think it was a pre-season friendly. Must have been. I think it was a league game. And Martin Boyle scored. But just as he's about, so he gets the ball in the box, and I think the keeper's coming out towards him. And the boy behind us shouts, somewhere like him, oh, fuck you, what are you doing, Boyle? And Boyle scores. And the guy just went, that shows what I fucking know it.
So on that note, Hibs played Queen of the South Scottish Cup years ago down at Palmerston Park, and me and my mate had camped out at Easter Road overnight to get tickets. I think that was maybe the same year that we were talking about with Stevenson the other night there, where Hibs were in with a shout at the double. And we've gone down, and I think Hibs were 1-0 down, and David Murphy was marauding in the Queen of the South half, and he was shaping up to shoot, and my mate Budgie shouts, don't you dare. Don't you dare, Murphy. He didn't even get the full name out of his mouth before Murphy had it in the back of the net.
Amazing. There's obviously Gary O'Connor's one when Sproul came on. He's like, what's he fucking going to do?
Aye.
And then 3 goals later, there's your answer.
No wonder he turned to drugs.
WTC 1981 said, which realistic former player do you want on the podcast? And do you know which supermarket to go to? Who would you have on, John? Former player? You can have anybody.
Oh, I don't know, but I got a wee bit of feedback from my mate in Australia. He said that he really enjoyed the Stevenson interview, and I said, oh, you know, who would you like to see? Thanks for that, obviously, and who would you like to see on next? He suggested Tam McCourt. I know he's not a former player, but he reckons that Tam McCourt would have some decent stories.
Probably would, aye.
Former player, I would like Chrissy Hogg.
Thorsten Schmudge.
Ross Chisholm.
I think, see, if you could have like anybody, you know, and taking away the realistic, but I'd love to get Sosie on just because Sosie was an absolute hero. And I'm sure everybody would want to ask about why he's not been back and all that, kind of like what happened, and kid, how come you just fucking never been back when every cunt adores you? So I would like to get Sosie on, but realistic.
I think Pat McGinley is realistic. I think we can get Pat McGinley on.
Pat McGinley, Keith Wright or something like that.
I would love Keith Wright to come on.
Get Budgie on. Budgie would be a good banter.
We wouldn't have any chance to speak. You'd get one opportunity to speak to him, and that would be him, just him talking for the rest of the podcast.
Amazing. It'd suit everybody down to the T. Budgie would be good. Or I really like for the 2016, again for the cup winning team, you look at the players under there. Keatons, I'd like to get Keatons on because I thought he had a big part to play that season. And he's like one of the ones that he's not quite a forgotten player, but I think you're never quite sure he realised how much Hibs fans liked him. And I think it'd be quite good to have him on.
On the flip side of that, will we give Chris Dagnall a shout?
Aye, Dagnall, definitely get him up. And Grant Holt as well. Oh, for Grant Holt was magic when he played for us. And he had a good career as well.
Did you listen to Grant Holt's interview on the Edinburgh Football Podcast?
Nah.
That's worth a listen. That was really good.
I'll go and look that. How did I missed that? Anyway. Right, Alex. No Brora and anything this time. His question is, what is the best flume at the Common Pool before they got taken away? Now, we talked about the flumes in the Common Pool. Do you remember there was 4 of them? Because there was Stingray, River Rapids,
Vortex,
was one, wasn't it?
Was there definitely 4?
Aye, because I'm sure we had 3 last time.
Could we remember the 4th last time as well?
Nah, could be
I'm not
bollocks.
remembering it.
Jane and I did this. We were out the other day and we were talking about, the Seven Hills of Edinburgh.
Oh, yeah.
And she came what the Seven Hills are, right? And last time we did it, we were like, I had to look up. I think we got most of them. Had to go and find the last couple because my memory is so shite. When we talked about it again, what were they again? I had to look it up. And I think now I'd forgotten again to go through it. The 4 flumes. Stingray. Was it Vortex? Vortex was one, wasn't it?
Stingray, River Rapids, Vortex was what you had. Well, see if I can do a quick Google.
Feels like cheating. While you're doing that, Alistair Taylor also asked, did you ever get thrown out of the comedy pool by some overzealous lifeguard? And what for? He got thrown out 3 times, twice for dive bombing and once for fecking running.
I never got thrown out. However, I was once in the commie pool with a mate and we were sort of sitting at the side of the pool or whatever. And there was, you know how the commie pool had like the sort of, I don't know, you want to call it the grandstand or whatever, the seating area.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of girls that were sitting way up the back. And we were sort of like looking up and we're chatting, we're like, oh, they're quite tidy, blah, blah, blah. And of course they waved. And I turned round to look at who they were waving at, and it was us. So I never went up and spoke to them because I was too embarrassed.
I wasted time doing that at the swimming pool anyway, John. The signs tell you no heavy petting and all that. So,
Aye.
No point getting involved in those shenanigans at the swimming. Did you find it?
In an evening news article, so that you can appreciate that there's about 10,000 adverts I need to wade through first.
Aye. The best one was the Stingray anyway, wasn't it? Like the where you had to sit as if you're going in the coffin with your arms folded across your chest.
So they give you that sign and you're thinking, because I don't think they had signs for any of the other ones, but they say like, Stingray, you need to go in with your arms across your chest and look after yourself. I went down it, followed the instructions to a T, and all the way down the Stingray, my head battered off the side like a fucking pinball. So every time after that, I went in with like covering my head. I'm not finding it, the name of the flumes.
Somebody can tweet us, I'm sure they will. Mal Bergen said, do you guys follow the Scottish national team or more interested in the cabbage? I'm definitely more interested in the cabbage, although they'll keep a wee eye on what's happening with the international team. Are you, John, you bothered about the national team?
I haven't been. I used to be. I got really, really disillusioned and became very bitter towards the national team thanks to Craig Brown and Tosh McKinlay in 1998. Because if anyone else remembers, I think Craig Brown had said, and it was in relation to David Hopkin, because David Hopkin, I think, had gotten injured playing squash. He'd taken a squash ball in the eye. And I think the year before, Hopkin had been instrumental in getting Crystal Palace promoted to the Premier League via the Championship playoffs, or the First Division playoffs, whatever it happened to be called then. But Hopkin had gotten injured. I think he'd been in decent form. And Craig Brown said that he wasn't going to be picking anyone for his World Cup squad that hadn't been playing regularly for their club. Enter Tosh McKinlay, who he took to the World Cup. And I was just livid. And then Scotland had that shite-mare against Morocco. I think we still had a chance of making it to the second round. And I think there's just been a succession of managers since then that have just gone through that tried and tested route of just picking players for the old firm, whether they were playing or not.
Aye.
And I didn't get me wrong. Like there's been times throughout that period where I've got involved, like emotionally involved. I remember Scotland playing Holland in a playoff and then I think they got fucked like 5-0. And I think that meant that we needed to win like something like 8-0, or we just need to win 8-5 or something on the night. Obviously, it was impossible. Then there was games against Italy that we got fucked. There was games against Georgia where if we'd won, we would have qualified and we couldn't do it. Or maybe that's back to front. But I quite like the fact that Steve Clarke is looking a bit further afield. Mm-hmm. He's not just going with the Old Firm players or the players that are in the squad for the Old Firm but aren't playing. He's got the boy Jack Hendry, who I think's been playing for, is it Inter Miami?
Couldn't tell you.
He's playing in America. There's a bit of chat about calling up Che Adams. Couldn't tell you much about him.
He played tonight.
Aye. So, no, I'm willing to give him a chance, but overall, more interested in Hibs.
Aye, 100%. Alex, so this question threw up some controversy earlier as well. Boris Johnson, Donald Trump, Nigel Farage, right? That's your trio of villains. You have to go for a pint with one, live with one forever, and bum one just once, and then the world will be rid of them for good. If you don't do it, then Hibs get taken over by Anne Budge and ruined. So
pint with, live with, bum one.
Yeah, but the one that you bum, the world is rid of them for good. So you're effectively taking one for the team there.
Oh, God. I think the world... Oh. Do you know what? I think living with Boris Johnson would probably be all right because he just set up a charity for your decoration funds, for all your renovation needs.
You don't want for anything if you were living with Johnson.
No.
And by the way, if you're living with him, imagine the amount of opportunities you get to call him a lying fucking cunt. Like, you could do that all day, every day, and not get bored of it.
So I'd probably have a pint with Trump because, again, I think he's a bit of a cretin, and I probably wouldn't want to spend much time with him. But you're going to see some opportunities. There's a bit of money flying about there, and he enjoys an afternoon with a porn star.
So, which
obviously means that I'm going to have to bump Farage, and I think I would take that because the world could do without Nigel Farage.
I'd swap him around. So I agree with you with Johnson, but get rid of Trump. That would be a Trump. Trump's a fucking nasty piece of work. Like Farage is a fucking dickhead, right? But
I disagree. I think Trump's an opportunist, and I think Farage
is as much an opportunist as you get. He's just he's a dick. Trump's an evil, fucking nasty, narcissistic.
It's Sophie's choice, isn't it?
Aye, that's the whole point of the question. You're not going to get held to it, to be fair.
Alex, I want to know who you're bumming.
Aye, Alex, you need to send us in your answer. Right, we're almost at the end of the questions, John, which is good because otherwise we're going to be going on until midnight. I thought when we started we might not have enough questions tonight, and we might actually not be able to include all the ones that have been sent in. Liam Fogarty said, with certain red tops describing the club's financial position as catastrophic, what is the biggest catastrophe that you can think of that has occurred this week?
Well, the use of the word catastrophic is like over the top, isn't it? Like it's one of the biggest exaggerations.
Yeah.
So
it's not catastrophic for Hibs. Like, we will comfortably survive what has happened in the last year. What would like some people in the city have seen as catastrophic this week, John?
A certain football result.
Yeah, some people might be hoping for a top 4 position in the Scottish freaking top flight.
Robbie Nielsen seen out the week as Hearts manager. That's catastrophic
for them. Yep. Do you think they'll get a plane out again?
I'm trying to think of a name for it rather than like Planegate. Like let's try and be a wee bit more creative, like with a like plane version 2.0.
Aye.
Whatever it happens to be, like maybe we should like try and crowdfund a plane that says no style, no ball, Nielsen in.
Nielsen in. Right, William said, is Douglas Ross better at politics or linesman? And he says, I've created a new word there. I imagine he's shite at both of them. Right, Ron Burgundy. You want to answer that one, John? Or will we move on?
I was just going to say that I'd seen a report this week that said that he was going to stand as an MP and an MSP. I don't think that makes him a better politician. I think it makes him a better parasite on the public purse.
Yeah. he does like a live Q&A thing on Facebook.
Yeah.
Somebody put in the name Mike Cocksmells or Mike Oxsmells. So when they read it out, he says Mike Oxsmells. Which I love stuff like that as well. Brilliant. More of that stuff that aimed at that sort of person, the better. Ron Burgundy said, "Is there anything worse than dog farts? Human farts are like bulk, but dog farts are proper nostril burners. Is there anything worse? I'm not sure that there is."
Not in my house. I know exactly what he means.
Aye, right. Yeah, we'll agree with you, Ron Burgundy. There is, dog farts are the worst. Councillor Tom McEwen, what song do you want for police sirens? So Kunster tweeted earlier on that he'd convinced his American pal, I think it was, that this was the noise that police sirens make. And when you play the video, you have to be careful when you play one of Kunster's videos, because normally it's the porn noise that everybody hears. But this one was the police kind of tearing along the road with the blue lights going, and it was the Proclaimers, which is a great idea for it. Tommy Coon's saying, what would you want? What song would you have?
So, what song would I want for the police siren?
For the police siren, yeah. So instead of it going Nino or playing the Proclaimers,
what about Ludacris? Move, bitch, get out of the way.
Was that what was the Blondie one way or another? I'm going to find you, going to get you.
Oh, yeah.
Quite good, you know, for when they're chasing. But I also quite like the idea of it being the Benny Hill theme. Just, I don't know, make it seem less dangerous.
Do you know, see if Scotland's police was broken down into its respective divisions, you could have applied the Benny Hill theme tune to Strathclyde police escorting the Rangers fans the other week there.
Aye. Benny Hill's theme tune can be applied to loads of things and improve those situations.
What we need to definitely stay away from is saying that a police siren would sound better with Titanic music. Nothing sounds better with Titanic music. Can we put that in the bin forever, please?
Do it in the bin now. Right, Ricky said, when we're allowed back to games, will we do quick bang from the boozer? So this is something we have to think about, John. Right?
Shit, we? I'm just the idiot, the resident idiot.
Well, I know, but you also provide a useful sounding board and come up with good ideas for the podcast. Quick bang obviously works because nobody's at the fucking football, so we can do 10 minutes after it finishes or half an hour after it finishes, whatever. We can have folk on, we talk about the game, give a reaction, and then publish it, right? It kind of loses that immediacy when we're all at the game, because probably the time you're routing back to the car or the train station or the boozer or whatever, we would have already have done it. So we need to think of an alternative. Either we could do it in a pub. I think how that would work, what the logistics of it were. Or maybe it gets knocked in. Maybe you only do it for away games or something like this. I think it can. But
do you want to talk about it now, or do you want to
no, we just
have an actual wee conversation about this? Because you're right. Because I think there's definite. I want to say there's potential for it. There's no potential for it, because I was saying to you recently that quick bang, because it's got a few regulars on there now, it's found its own wee groove. And how do you channel that post game? How do you get lots of people together? And I've got a couple of ideas how that might work.
Aye, right, that's for another time. Anyway, we'll have a think about it. Last question goes to Mikey, who says, taking a piss in the shower, secret shame or acceptable?
Absolutely acceptable.
Secret shame.
Secret shame? What? So, just make sure you give the place a wee squeegee down afterwards. You'll be fine.
There was a few tweets on the back of that as well. Folks sort of saying that, if it's your own shower, etc., then I suppose if it's your own shower, who's bothered? But I think you should go before you go in.
Do you know, I was going to say, like, what difference does it make whose shower you've been in? But my mates listen, I've definitely taken a shower at theirs, and I couldn't honestly say whether I've had a pee or not. I'd like
Well-
to think that I've got the decency to have peed beforehand, and I think I would have. I'm quite strict about that kind of thing.
They will assume though that you've done it. Now that you've said that, they will, because you were so quick with your answer. They
I
will
went-
go, that,
I went
that
for a-
fucker. You'll not be allowed to shower in their house again.
I went for a lengthy shower once when we went to go watch Hibs against Elfsborg. We were in a hotel in the middle of, let's say, Stockholm, whatever it was. And I was just enjoying the shower. I like a shower. And of course, they thought I was having a Tommy tank. So if they assume that I've peed in the shower, then that's the least of my worries.
Aye, fair dues. Right, that's us, John. It seems like a natural point to draw a conclusion to the proceedings for the night. Thanks very much for listening. We will be back on Monday next week with Longbangers. No game this weekend, John.
No, we're not back until I think a week on Monday with the Scottish Cup.
Fuck. I hate it when there's no football. Anyway, internationals will be, but I'm not doing anything for that. The internationals can just fucking happen and go without comment. Right, Monday back for Longbangers. In fact, we'll have a guest on Monday as well, so tune in for that. Look confused, John. I'll message
Look of
you.
surprise.
Aye, oh. Right, thanks for listening. Catch you next time.
Dry county line, I pledged upon. Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee. I don't